Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every person's opinion of you has completely disappeared. No likes, no compliment, no criticism, no approval, nothing. But you still know who you are. Many people spend their entire life chasing acceptance, changing themselves to fit expectation, and measuring their worth through the eyes of others. But what if the very thing we are desperately seeking is the reason we are anxious, insecure, and emotionally exhausted? I'm Farhana Maizuhada, and today I want to talk about a struggle that many of us carry quietly, the constant need to be accepted, approved of, and validated by others. We live in a world where a single opinion can shape our mood, a few words can determine our confidence, and the fear of judgment can stop us from being ourselves. Yet, in trying so hard to be like, we often lose sight of who we really are. We live in a world where approval has become something many people constantly chase, from social media likes to the opinion of friends, family, and strangers. We are often taught to measure our worth through how others see us. As a dental student, I understand what it feels like to be evaluated and judged regularly. However, this need for validation extends far beyond academics. It influences our choice, our confidence, and even our identity. This issue needs attention because living for other approval creates anxiety, comparison, and emotional dependence. Learning to detach from validation allows us to rediscover ourselves and choose peace over chaos. This topic is important to me because I have personally experienced how exhausted it can be to seek approval from others. Like many young adults, I have found myself worrying about how people perceive me, comparing myself to others, and allowing external validation to influence my confidence. Through this experience, I become interested in understanding why so many people struggle with the need to be liked. I've spent exploring physiological research on self-worth, social approval, and emotional dependence, which has helped me to understand myself better and also the impact of validation-seeking behavior. By combining both personal and experience and research, I hope to provide meaningful insight into how emotional detachment can lead to greater confidence, freedom, and inner peace. At the end of my speech, my audience will stop seeking for external validation. Today, we will discuss how the obsession of being liked destroy more identity than failure ever will. We will examine how living for other approval traps people in vicious cycle of anxiety, comparison, and emotional dependence. Finally, we will explore why the moment we stop needing validation, they become emotionally free, genuinely confident, and impossible to control. The obsession with being liked destroy more identity than failure ever will. Think about how many versions of you have abandoned just to fit in. Maybe you want to express an unpopular opinion, or pursue a different passion, or simply just be yourself. But you held back because you were afraid of being judged. When approval became your priority, you slowly begin editing your personality to match what other people expect. The danger is not that people might dislike you, the danger is that you stop knowing who you really are. Failure may hurt your confidence for a moment, but constantly changing yourself to gain acceptance can erase your identity. According to Siddiquides and Skygle 2024, authenticity is closely linked to physiological well-being and a stable sense of self. Their research suggests that people who suppress their true value, identity, and in order to get approval from others experience lower well-being and weaker sense of authenticity. In other words, the more we sacrifice who we are to be liked, the further we move away from our genuine self. This is especially relevant to us as a dentistry student and a future dentist. Think about the last time you were in a preclinical lab, having a bad wakes up, or arguing with a classmate critic of your typodont prep just to avoid judgment. These moments accumulate. If we spend our lab years sharp-shifting to please everyone, we erode our technical confidence before it even forms. We cannot expect to become precise, independent clinician if we are crippled by the need for external approval from peers who are ultimately too stressed about their own practical requirement to care anyway. Starting today, challenge yourself to make at least one decision based on your own value rather than someone else's approval. Speak your honest opinion, pursue the opportunity you want, or express yourself authentically without seeking permission. The more you use authenticity over approval, the stronger your sense of self becomes. Now that we understand how the need to be liked can slowly destroy our identity, let us examine how living for other approval trap people in cycle of anxiety, comparison, emotional dependence. Living for other approval trap people in cycle of anxiety, comparison, and emotional dependence. When your self-worth depends on what other people think of you, peace become impossible. Every compliment feel like a reward, and every criticism feel like a personal attack. Instead of focusing your own growth, you become preoccupied with how you measure against everyone. Social media make this even worse by constantly exposing us to carefully curated version of other people's life. As a result, many people themselves trapped in cycle of comparison, constantly questioning whether they are good enough, successful enough, or good enough. Research by Vogel and al. Found that increased social comparison on social networking sites is associated with lower self-esteem and poorer physiological well-being. The study suggests that individuals who frequently compare themselves to other online are more likely to experience the feeling of inadequacy and dissatisfaction with themselves. We see this play out every single day in our dental lab. Think about how easily your mood is in the preclinical environment based entirely on outside opinion. A compliment on your cavity prep make you day, while an instructor harsh critic ruins it. That is emotional dependence. When you let greed and peer comparison dictate your self-worth, you become trapped. No matter how much validation you get on Twitter wakes up, you will anxiously crave it again tomorrow, leaving you perpetually insecure and constantly seeking reassurance. The next time you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else or seeking reassurance from others, pause and let yourself think, would I still value myself if nobody approved of this? Stop measuring your worth by your character, effort, and personal growth rather than by other people's opinion. The less you depend your validation, the more emotionally resilient you become. Now that we have seen how the pursuit of approval creates anxiety, comparison, and emotional dependence, let us explore how letting go of validation can lead to emotional freedom, genuine confidence, and inner peace. The moment people stop needing validation, they become emotionally free, confident, and impossible to control. The true confidence is not built on praise, popularity, or approval from others. It's come from knowing what regardless of what people think. When you stop seeking validation, you no longer feel pressure to impress everyone around you. You are free to make decisions based on your own value rather than other people's expectation. Criticism loses its power to define you, and praise no longer becomes something you desperately depend on. This emotional freedom allows you to live authentically, pursue your goal fiercely, and remain secure in who you are. According to Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory, individuals experience greater physiological well-being when their motivation comes from internal value rather than external reward or approval. The research show that people who are intrinsically motivated tend to have higher emotional well-being, greater life and also satisfaction, and stronger physiological resilience compared to those who rely heavily on external validation. This thing changed everything for us. As an aspiring dental clinician, look at the peers or instructors you respect most. They are rarely the one desperate for approval. Instead, they are the one individual who trust their hand skill and remain steady even when a manual task fail. When you decouple your self-worth from instructor feedback or peer praise, no one can manipulate your confidence through criticism or applause. You gain the freedom to focus entirely on mastering your craft and transforming you into a resilient, independent student who is truly impossible to discourage. Starting today, practice validating yourself before seeking validation from others. Celebrate your own achievement, trust your own judgment, and remind yourself that your worth is not determined by likes, compliment, or approval. The more you rely on your own value, the more confidence, independence, and emotional free you will become. As we have seen here, breaking free allows the need validation, allow us to reclaim our identity, escape the cycle of anxiety and comparison, and ultimately we can choose peace over chaos. The need for external validation is a burden that none of us were meant to carry. It is important to remember this because life is too short to be spent chasing approval from people whose opinions constantly change. My goal today is to encourage you to stop seeking validation from others and start building confidence from within. Always remember that obsession with being liked can destroy identity. Living for other approval trap you in anxiety, comparison, and emotional dependence. And the moment you stop needing validation, you become emotionally free, genuinely confident, and impossible to control. Thank you, everyone, and when you leave this room today, take a moment to look around. The people around you are not spending their days analyzing your mistake, judging your choice, or deciding your worth. Just like you, they are focused on their own challenge, their own fears, and their own search for acceptance. The audience you have been performing for entire life may not even exist. So stop asking the world for permission to be yourself. Speak your mind, pursue what matters to you, and make decisions based on your value rather than other people's approval. Because the moment you stop needing validation from others is the moment you finally become free to live your life.